Welcome everybody, welcome at the Odorama Odor Ludens. It's the 40th Odorama. Some people will think, already the 40th. Other people will think it might be a bit little because it seems so many. But this is the 40th Odorama. Which one of you has been here before? Oh, that's quite a lot. Yeah, so only the middle there is a small group that are for the first time here. Odorama is a series of lectures about around a certain theme, and we always invite scientists and artists and people that have interesting talks and views on this theme. Today the theme is toys. I came to this idea of the Odor Ludens Odorama because I was talking to Caro Verbeek, also the curator. She will be speaking later about the thing that, or the fact that when people think about their childhood toys, that almost immediately they get into their head a toy that is not really smelly, or maybe it has a smell. Some toys from the 80s were heavily perfumed, but well, I remember one toy very specifically. I don't know if you in the audience, do you remember childhood toys that had a certain smell? Oh, no hands. Oh, one. Oh, there. Oh, yeah. Some people. I remember the smell of the box of Lego. It smells very unpleasant because it also collected a lot of dust. I already started talking about the Odorama. That's me. But first of all, I need to ask if you feel sick at the moment. Who does? Nobody? We are sitting apart because of Corona. People can view at home, also because of Corona, but we like this very much, that people can follow us wherever they are. But we will be continuing this online broadcasting. And people at home, they got this package. You will be also smelling this, but people got this in the mail. And I'm going to explain. Agne, can you help me to hand the mic, because I need both my hands. This is Agne. So, I have the scissors. People at home, I hope you have your scissors ready. This is the first package. It's the only one that you have to cut loose before you cut the rest. So be careful not cutting into the green, because that is a slimy substance and you don't want to break the pouch. So cut it loose. In the audience you will be later handed out also this pouch. It looks a bit like an ice cream that you can freeze. It is not. Later on I'll tell you what it is. Then we continue by opening. First you open this side. Then the other. Very boring for the people in the audience. And then you can alternately take the blotters out and smell what is on there. So that's for later. Thank you very much. This is one of my childhood toys. It got lost, so this is somebody else's toy. And I remember this one very much because it had a very distinctive smell. Not strawberry, or it didn't have a smell on purpose, but it was made of plastic. And at that time in the 80s, these plastic dolls were made with very hazardous and weekmakers, softeners. So the smell of the softeners lingered always around this doll. And after a while, the wires that were in there came out. So that's a romantic idea of me. Oh, Caro is...
I a surprise for you, because I know how fond you are of this nostalgic smell. So I actually found...
No. It looks... Yeah, thank you very much. Caro, I'll tell you all the small dolls that are presented here. Caro will tell a lot about them, are from the collection of Caro Verbeek. And you found my doll. Well, it didn't have this head, so it didn't have the head, but that's a small detail. And I can smell it now. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Sorry, you had it too, but then smaller. Yeah, I remember it to be smaller too. Normally childhood things appear bigger in your memory, but this is quite big. But maybe they came in different sizes. Oh, it's so nice. Can I have it? Or is it part of your collection? Oh, that would be great. Oh, my table is a mess. But I can't do anything about it. Oh, and if I forget to spray the microphone for the next speaker, please remind me of, because I'm busy with all kinds of things in my head. This is another thing I remember very well, the smell of slime. And what is also so interesting to me is that one of these slimy things, that they come back. So children nowadays are really fond of making slime and well, doing stuff with it. I don't know, whatever. You see them all the time making. If you have children, you know they are making slime and they want to create slime all the time, and they have a strange focus on this slime. I didn't have a focus myself on it. I remember the smell of the slime, and then that there were hairs in the slime quite fast. So then I stopped being interested in it, and it dried out. So in the end, you have a small greenish. I don't know how do you tell them? How do you say it in English? Een restje left over. Yeah. So modern, a lot of YouTubers, they get into this tactile experience. They try to communicate stuff that is normally not. You cannot communicate normally through internet or through image or through video. One of those things is ASMR. It's a thing that people. I have some videos also, but this is a very extreme ASMR. Rage that went on a while. It was people eating washing powder pouches, like trying to. They put them in their mouth, they chew on it, experience it, recording themselves doing it, and then, well, I think it also killed some people, this strange habit, but it is also a way of communicating these tactile things, and to me it is an advanced way of, well, finding out new toys to play with also for adults. Well, this is a really ugly thing you should not try at home. People at home, don't try this. We have this I gave you to play with a bit and fumble. Do you say experience? People at home experiencing already some delight, joy, very pleasurable. You can put it in your mouth. This is not, well, it might be a bit bitter because there is some alcohol in there. Don't drink it. But to make this, the stuff that's in here, I needed to use a tiny bit of alcohol. But keep it closed. You cannot drink it. It's denaturated. Try to put it in your mouth. What do you experience? Is there somebody that has a nice experience? You?
Do you have to eat it?
No, don't eat it. It's only the sensual experience you get with this lovely toy. We have here some advanced, look what these people do, they make videos and they try to give you the same experience that they get without actually feeling or touching it. And I'm going to show you 2 examples of this ASMR thing. I tried to get one here, an ASMR producing person, and they're very shy. They don't want to share this. And when I said this is it's going to be an evening about toys, that she was very offended by me. Like they take it much more serious. It's like a physical thing, and it occurs also quite often with sound. So, like Magnum, the Magnum commercial, the sound. That's kind of the first that I know of, first ASMR experience. But not only sound. This video continues for 2 hours with the best of all the liquid ASMR triggers. Who feels it here in the audience? Who gets this feeling? Hands in the air. Not everybody does sense it. You have the opposite. You dislike it. You hate this. What do you dislike about it? The sound. And the touching. You don't get a tingle in your spine. Who does get it? You. Some people really. That's the advanced thing, is to get really tingles. And I have another example. This is my favorite. Caressing of the chip. So please do this at home. It continues really long. You see, this is a 45-minute video. So the idea is to plan an evening free and watch this. There is endless videos of people whispering in the microphone, making sounds, touching things. Well, it's a very interesting thing. Well, this is maybe curve. We do a shortcut to something else. There's also other toys. We will hear more about them. I searched around on the internet for scented toys, sex toys. This is grape scented, which is a bit strange to me to give a dildo the scent of grapes. Does anybody get excited by the smell of grapes? Oh no, that's not a finger. That's only a picture. Oh no, okay. What would be a better smell? Suggestions? Avocado. Caro, avocado. That's a good one. Avocado is also a very sensory thing. You go into the supermarket and you touch the avocado, you squeeze it to see if it's ripe. And then, well, it's a nice first film for you to make, Caro Verbeek, the squeezing of the avocado. In the end, we come to this section of, not maybe even earlier than you would expect. There are some sexual. Well, this is also some kind of a sexual experience, in my opinion. The girl that I talked to that did the AMR was again offended that I suggested it was a sexual thing. That it is not, in her opinion. It's really like a thing to calm and to relax. So that's my introduction. Our first speaker, I let you introduce yourself. Concept and healthcare designer, Alissa Rees. I'll do this first. If you walk through the forest or something.
Yeah.
Okay, we're up and running again.
You can go.
So I can go. This is your first slide.
Yes.
So you were not so.
I was not so far.
No.
I told the whole clue, but I wasn't.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Okay. Hello guys at home, welcome back. So, my name is Alissa Rees. I'm a concept and healthcare designer. I'm gonna introduce myself as a designer, what I do in my studio. I will tell some sense concept and of course baby farm toys, why we're here. So, when I was 19, I got leukemia, so I had to be in hospital for around 2 years. And I thought hospital was not a very inspirational environment, so there were not a lot of things that could mentally distract me. The food was very bad. There were no toys on the department, only on the child department, and I was 19. So, but I wasn't a designer, so I didn't take next steps in design process, or I didn't do something about it. I initially wanted to study philosophy, but when I was cured from my disease, I thought I want to do something else with my hands, more creative, something with results and that could help others. So I went to the Design Academy, and there I graduated with a whole book, How to Humanize Hospital. So on mobility, communication, atmosphere, balance, and many more. So one of my products is it's not something to do with toys, but it's a portable IV pole that stimulates mobility, and this with the aim to accelerate recovery. So patients are more mobile, so instead of the IV pole, they can go outside, breathe fresh air, and present themselves as a normal human. I did a pilot in a hospital, but I won't go too deep in this. And now I'm negotiating with an American company if they want to buy my product. So I design products, mostly in the healthcare area, education, and nature. I work for municipalities, companies. If they have a problem, I come as a creative to solve it. Always nice. And I give workshops and lectures. So some sense concept. So for designer, sense is very interesting, and especially for me, it has beneficials for health. Some sense can be very beneficial for your health. So as a healthcare designer, that's interesting. Sense can also bring back memories or create memories, and it can also warn for danger or a search situation. So as a designer, we can play with this, and that's really interesting. I designed some smell concepts for companies, international companies. For example, Smell the World. It's actually a tool or toy, you could say, to relive the place you have visited. So how it works, it's a tube with a very specific smell inside it on the fabric. You go to your holiday, for example, Canada or New York or wherever you are, and you smell it every day. So it actually integrates with your experience. So when you're home, you put it in the closet, And after a month, you smell again the fabric, the very unfamiliar smell, and the whole experience of this holiday comes. So instead of pictures, you can relive your whole memory through smell, so you can collect a world of smell. Another concept I created for a company was the fragrance and his story. And I wanted to design something for children that are really, really sick. And they have to stay inside of the hospital and they cannot really walk. So what I created was, or what I wanted to do is, how can I get them outside of the hospital without literally get them outside of the hospital? So I created a book full of stories. And with every story there is a very familiar smell. For example, fireplace or a bakery or some other familiar smell. So the mom or the father or the caretaker could tell this story and at the same time spread the smell like we're doing now. And then the child can be in his mind for a moment outside of the hospital. Another concept or interesting for designers is to use smell that is, for example, has a health effect. For example, lavender is making you less nauseous. Chemo patients are very nauseous because they're getting this poison inside of their body. And they also lose their hair. So you can combine two of the things. For example, create a hat that has a lavender smell. So at the same time, they get less nauseous. And they have this hat anyway. So the baby farm toys. Now you can smell your smell your smell. So when I received my chemo, it didn't really work for me. So I had a stem cell transplantation. And actually you receive a new immune system, new blood, not a new DNA. Some people think that, but just new blood. So I received a new immune system, so I'm now 9 years old officially. But when I was back in society, I thought, I don't know how to strengthen my immune system. I don't know what to do with it. They just throw you back in society and you just have to figure it out yourself. So I talked a lot with immunologists or biologists, and they said, well, to strengthen your immune system, you actually have to be in contact with the right bacteria. And the right bacteria you can find in nature, and especially in hay, wool, straw, wool, and earth. So you're smelling now, hay. So I thought, why not create toys, and I have them here as well, that you can fill with straw, wool, and earth. And in this way, strengthen your immune system. And how it works is, in the first 3 years, your baby is strengthening their immune system. And if they are in contact with the right bacteria, which is in straw, wool, and earth, it builds up a kind of data system. So I thought, why not make toys and fill them with straw, wool, and earth? And by smelling the toys, this is why we're connected to smell, they inhale the bacteria. So they only have to smell the toys and don't really eat it or something. And what I found about creating memories and interesting is these scents are creating a first memory and will help to activate their interest for nature. So when you're in the future, as an adult, going to nature, it will remind you on the baby farm toys, like the comfy and comfortable place. So I have a movie.
Nature, bring it back to me. I want to live my longer time, so bring it back to me. Nature, I'll bring it back to me. I want to live for a longer time, so bring it back to me. Bring it back to me. I want to live my longer time, so bring it back to me. Nature, I'll bring it back to me. I want to live for a longer time, so bring it back to me.
So they did actually research between children that were born on the farm and children that are born in the city. And they saw that children that are born on the farm have a way stronger immune system. And nowadays, a lot of people in the city have hay fever or asthma or intestine disorders. And that's, if it's not genetical, it can be that it's probably you didn't have enough contact in the first years with the nature, with the straw ball and earth. So the next time you're in the forest, enjoy them. Thank you.
Thank you. So do you suggest that we passed around some small balls with dirt and soil to lick them a bit?
You can.
Or only smell them?
Only smells enough.
By smelling you inhale also the dirt. There is, I think there is also some, it's fertilized soil, so there is some cow shit in there, I suppose. Or how do you say that nicely?
How do you say cow shit nicely?
Mest.
Oh, mest.
But then, I don't know the English word. What? Dung? Oh, sorry, dung, cow dung, yeah. Can we look how beautiful they are?
Yeah, they're actually the shapes also of bacteria. If you have
What bacteria is this?
Abstract shapes.
Oh, what's this?
This is, and bacteria
Oh, it's
shape.
a bacteria shape. They look so nice.
Yeah.
With like a handbag, you could bring your bacteria everywhere. Can we buy them?
Well, not yet.
I would love to buy them. When
Yeah,
can we buy them?
Well, well, as a designer, and we talked about it, you have a lot of projects going on, and you have to choose which one you bring to the market. So I have contact with a company that they are arranging like the soil, earth, and that I will make those, but it will take time.
But people can find the dirt and the soil themselves.
Exactly. You can see it also as an awareness project.
Yeah, you need an empty, and then you go to a local farm, and
fill it yourself.
Fill it with some soil. And so you have to choose one.
No, you get the whole package, isn't it?
So there's going to be 3 made.
Yeah.
Great. Now I hope maybe we can. Do you know when it's ready? Is it a long-term project?
Well, first I have to sell my portable eye people, and then I will go to this one.
Your what?
My first project.
Oh, yeah.
This one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
First things first.
First things first. Okay, I need to place my Pink Panther a bit more nicely on the table than lying. So, are there questions? Do people have questions? There must be questions. You have a question. I'll come to you.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you very much. I have a question about the first project, about smelling your holiday or smelling the world. Is that really something? I was wondering about the science behind that. Is that really true?
Oh yeah, we tested it. You can test it yourself. Even if you you buy a new kind of shampoo, you take it to your holiday and you don't use it after for weeks, and you smell it again, you can re-experience your holiday. So you can try it at home.
And why were you curious if it's tested?
No, I'm just curious. It reminds of the famous example of Proust, of course. It's like the involuntary memory that you can get of something. And I was just, it's something that
wondering. More questions? Do you wish you had these as a child when you were a baby?
Looks nice.
Looks nice.
But there were some puppets like this.
They exist already in your childhood.
Exactly, but the material and it looks like very old.
Yeah, it looks like an old thing. Maybe it, but they were not filled with dirt. You did it yourself. So do you have allergies now? No allergies. Well, that worked. Do people have allergies here? 1, 2, a lot of people. Did you wish you have these when you were a child? Well, there's a big market, I think. So, thank you very much. Give a warm applause.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I need to. Yeah, you can spray it, not really into it, but a bit like this, and then you clean it. I also have this Freddie Mercury stick to interview you all. ASMR. Oh. Oh no, yeah, no, you give it to Caro. Next speaker is Caro. Alissa Rees. Caro Verbeek. Do you introduce yourself? Or
No,
shall I do
I
that?
want you to introduce me. Yeah.
Caro, this is the lovely Caro Verbeek. She is, together with me, we organize Odoramas, but she also is almost a doctor, not PhD graduate. No, that's not how you call that.
Yeah, Doctor of Philosophy.
Doctor of Philosophy. And she is but you are an art historian.
Yeah.
But you get a PhD in philosophy.
It's called, you can choose this title, Doctor of Philosophy.
Don't tell Plato, he would not agree, I think. Well, I asked you to give a talk about scented toys, and you really got into the mood.
Yeah, I got really wild. I started collecting fragrant toys because my mother had thrown out all of my former toys, of course, and they're all there on those swings. And I wrote to people on Marktplaats, and I asked them, can you please sniff your toy for me? And they said, no, thank you, bye. Other people were really enthusiastic. So yeah, during the break, you can sniff these toys. Maybe you own some of them.
They are all on nose height. Not this is a bit high.
Yeah, that's too high for me.
But yeah, well.
Some have lost their smell, but some are still really fragrant. But yeah, thanks for your introduction.
Yeah, I tried to do you right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please start your talk.
Okay. So this mini exhibition is called Nostalgia. And I want to talk to you today about how smelly toys shape our olfactory identity, or the way we evaluate smells in the future. Because these are really formative smells, some of the first smells we encountered. What do these smells do to us? And why do we like them so much? First, I want to ask you a couple of questions. These are all fragrant toys, smelly toys. Who owned Dufties or Charmkins? No one. No one. Ah, over there. An 80s child, I think. Yeah, grew up in the 80s. Who is really fond of the smell of rubber inflatables? Yeah, I think that's a fantastic smell. Yeah. Play-Doh. Ah, there we go. And it makes sense because Play-Doh was invented in the 50s. So it's more than half a century old. A strawberry shortcake doll. Who owned this? Anyone? Because that's from the 70s, actually. Then the Star Wars fans. Any Star Wars fans here? This is a TIE fighter pilot. Did you own one, Lieven?
I have one now.
You bought it, especially because of this? Okay. But does it smell? You haven't smelled it?
One moment, I need to turn this off. So again.
So Lieven here, he's a big fan of Odorama. He's here every month. And you have this TIE fighter pilot.
Yeah, I got one from my mom, I think 2 years ago, but I haven't smelled it yet.
Okay. You should
So
next
when
time.
I get home,
You'll
smell
sniff it. Okay. And then some scented erasers. Who had a scented eraser? Yeah. Did you want to eat it? Did you want to eat it? Oh, I always wanted to eat it. Or dinky toys. When the paint starts chipping off, it has this really specific smell. Ah.
It smells like metal.
It smells like metal.
Metal, yeah.
And what does this smell do to you?
It makes me happy.
It makes you happy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And of course, scented crayons. Did you own them? Yeah. And maybe I can ask you a question about the crayons. Can you describe the smells and how did they make you feel?
They smell very like chemical, but like really sweet, like frutella a bit. Yeah, how did it make me feel?
Was it pleasant, unpleasant?
It made me feel like very girly, very like, oh, it's just girly. I can't describe it anywhere else.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you mention it, and I want to say more about that during this lecture. Scents, of course, they're neutral in themselves, but somehow become gendered categories. And toys have a lot to do with that. So, thank you for raising that point. Play-Doh. This is a really interesting scent because it's one of the few scents that's actually patented. That's very rare. It happened in 2018. The scent is described as, and you have it under your chair, so you can sniff it now. There's a box under your chair with a little ball of Play-Doh. Yeah. So it's described as sweet musk, vanilla, a hint of cherry, and a natural scent of salt wheat dough. And we're going to play a little game right now. People at home, you also have some Play-Doh, and they can play this little game as well. I'm going to show you a picture with 3 famous, beautiful noses. And you choose one, and you model it from this piece of Play-Doh, and you only have 20 seconds. Okay, there we go. You can choose Dante Alighieri, Barbra Streisand, or the Duchess of Cambridge. And she has the most popular nose when it comes to plastic surgery. People ask for a Duchess, for what's her name? Catherine, I think. Yeah, Kate Middleton. Dante was also really famous for his nose because it actually signified that he was a poet. You needed an aquiline nose if you wanted to be taken serious as a poet. And then I think maybe we can film some of the noses. Are you almost ready? Yeah, make some nostrils. Okay, who chose Dante Alighieri? Okay, let's see a Dante Alighieri over there. Maybe you can film the Dante, or you come here. Yeah, that looks good. And who did a Barbra Streisand? Over there. Can you show us your Barbra Streisand? And then who did a Kate Middleton? Okay, and the rest didn't do any nose. Actually, we want to collect all these noses. If in the end you can hand them in, we're going to make a nice collage of noses, and then you'll see them on social media. So one thing that really struck me is how the smell of plastic can result in instant bliss. Even though plastic, well, it's very wasteful, it's a threat to our environment, but we love the smell because our toys were made of plastic. So how did this happen? How come do we enjoy the smell of plastic so much? In order to understand this, we need to know more about this phenomenon called the Proustian memory. Someone already mentioned it. I won't go into detail, but at least a bit. Who has heard of the Proustian memory? Okay, so it's good that I'm going to explain it. Proustian memory is named after Marcel Proust. He wrote a novel or a series of books called À la recherche du temps perdu, In Search of Lost Time. And in one of those books, called Swan's Way, there's this famous episode where Marcel, the main character, dips a Madeleine cake in his lime blossom tea, takes a bite, and then he's suddenly overwhelmed with this really powerful early memory. And what struck him was, okay, looking at this cake didn't evoke any memory, thinking of the cake didn't evoke a memory, only tasting and smelling it did. So he did it again. Again, he's overwhelmed with a memory, not just of facts. Proustian memory is not just factual. A Proustian memory is remembering how you felt the first time you smelled that same scent. So it's usually very suddenly, it's involuntary, and it's very emotional. And it can bring you back to before your 11th year, whereas more cognitive memories bring you back much less far. And it's evoked by a scent. It can also be a tactile impression, but scientists have actually proven that smells bring you back much earlier than images or even music. So the conclusion is, the fact that we like the smell of plastic so much, of course, it has nothing to do with the smell of plastic. It has everything to do with the context. Because you encountered the smell of plastic when you were young, you were playing, you were happy. So it becomes a portal to bliss, this very smell, and all the other smells of our toys. So in what other ways did the scent of toys determine how we feel about certain smells? Remember, Proustian memories last a lifetime. It's like hardwired. That smell will always remind you of that very moment. And I was very interested in how does this work in relation to gender. So-called, supposedly masculine smells and feminine or girly smells. For example, who would say this is a masculine scent? Strawberry. No one. Would you rather say this is a masculine scent? Smell of wood. Yet, both materials are gender neutral, of course. So, having said that, these are some of the toys I owned as a kid in the 80s, doofties or charmkins. And they all had a very fruity, floral smell. They were all different. And most of the figures were feminine, female. And they had floral smells like blossom. There's Busy Lizzie Beaver. I didn't own that one. I don't know the smell. Rosie the skunk and Papa Corn. So you see how the male character, the male figure, has more of a robust flower. And I actually found it on Marktplaats. And I installed all of the figures on that swing over there. And then somehow Papa Corn got lost. It's gone. We cannot smell it. So we cannot smell the difference here between male and female scent. But what also struck me is how they were actually called in the 80s scented playmates. You'll love to wear around. So I don't know if we would choose this kind of word to describe a toy, a playmate. And it immediately reminded me of the following. This Hustler very first scratch and sniff centerfold. So that's my hand. It's not on an actual woman, it's on paper. And I have it. It's a collector's item over here. I'm a very proud owner. I'll show you the centerfold. Maybe Frank can hold the microphone. Did any one of you own this one in the 70s? No? So this is it. This is the centerfold. Do we need to censor it? No. Yeah, okay. I was really curious. And there's an article in here that said something about how important it is that a woman smells natural. So I I rubbed it and I smelled it and I read an interview with, I think her name is Candy, not sure. And then she said, I just took a shower and I bathed myself with lilac odor. So now my vagina smells like lilac. And I felt a bit, what's the word?
Offended?
Yeah, disappointed.
Disappointed, yeah, I would be disappointed too.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Does it smell like lilac? I don't dare to.
Yeah, maybe, I don't think it's corona proof if you all start touching touching it. But we have another very feminine scent for you. That does not smell like lilac, but also it sounds very innocent. You might have heard about this candle. Gwyneth Paltrow was mixing her new perfume, and her perfumer had some ingredients: geranium, citrusy bergamot, cedar, juxtaposed with damask rose. And then she said, "Hey, that smells like my vagina." Frank and I were interviewed about this candle, and I started thinking about it, and I thought, wow, this is so not feminist. This is so insulting, because what you're actually saying is that female parts smell like flowers and wood and roses, very innocent. And I thought, this is so wrong. Why mask the true smell of a vagina? And you actually have the smell, not the actual smell, but the smell of the candle, also in your box. I think it's number 6. So first I was really angry when I read about these ingredients, but then I smelled it, and I think it's actually, yeah, it could be. No? No way. Okay. Yeah. Over there. Maybe we can ask you a question.
Yeah, person in our audience said no way. While smelling this, what do you think you smell?
A perfume, not a vagina. Well, no vagina.
No vagina.
No.
For you, it's not a vagina.
Smelled several vaginas.
Okay.
You're a lesbian, you say, and this had never happened that you smelled this.
No, not yet. No.
You haven't smelled Gwyneth Paltrow yet. That's, yeah.
Does it remind anyone of a vagina? Could it be? No. Perfumey. Okay, then it's very anti-feminist. First I thought, okay, maybe. I haven't smelled that many vaginas, I guess. So more gender fluid categories, a few more examples. We're going to look at a clip by olfactory artist Hagen Betzwiese, famous for his recreation of the scent of the moon, but he also made a video about his Star Wars toys.
While scrolling through social media, I recently came across a post by my friend Caro Verbeek. Do I know anyone collecting vintage Star Wars action figures? I have an important question. Could you sniff your Paltoy 1982 TIE Fighter pilot for me? As a kid growing up in the 70s, I had a huge collection of Star Wars action figures, and almost like every spaceship you can imagine. But when I went down to the basement to check, I found out that the huge box with the action figures is somewhere in storage. So Caro helped me out and sent me some of her toys. The famous 1982 TIE Fighter pilot. And also a He-Man action figure, STINKOR. So what is special about these two toys? They both come with a very interesting olfactory story. STINKOR has a smell on its own, and this very special TIE Fighter pilot, made by a company called Paltoy, has a story that comes through the production of the figure. Almost every Star Wars toy was made by Kenner, a US company that produced most of the Star Wars merchandise. But some toys were manufactured under license by different companies. As I learned from Caro, this TIE Fighter pilot should have been cross-contaminated by strawberry flavor from the shortcake dolls which were produced at the same Paltoy factory where this Stormtrooper was made. Let's sniff it. Front side. If you really deep inhale it, maybe you get a bit of strawberry sensation. Let's compare it to an indoor speed biker. The indoor biker smells more like plastic, whilst the TIE fighter pilot smells a bit different plasticky. This one smells more plasticky, and this one smells maybe strawberry plasticky. One smell I definitely remember, it's STINKOR. I never was a He-Man fanboy. They could never stand on its own. To me, they had no good story or good movie. That's typical He-Man move. Look at this. Anyhow, I remember the day when my friend came back from a shopping trip with his mom. They've been to the mall and he got a new action figure, and they came home and we've been in my parents' house garden. And when he opened the box with STINKOR for the very first time, somehow the smell of this action figure and the smell of his mom melted together. 40 years later, the smell of STINKOR sticked with me, and I remember it vividly. And still, it is the smell of my childhood friend's mom in the 80s. I'm very curious to hear what you think these two smell like. Let me know. And goodbye.
I think I pushed the wrong button. Did any one of you own either a TIE fighter pilot or a STINKOR? No STINKOR owners.
In the meantime, you can smell.
Almost. I'll point out where they are. Here's a STINKOR for later, but it's 40 years old. Remember that. There's also a Moss Man that also had a smell, but I do not see the TIE fighter pilot. It should be somewhere.
Maybe over there. It's there.
It's over there? Okay.
Together
With the crayons. So the TIE fighter pilot by Paltoy, it was really difficult to get hold of this because most were produced by Kenner and only a few by Paltoy. And as Hagen explained, it actually smells of strawberry. And I went searching on forums. There are a lot of forums on Star Wars toys, and men confess there. Did you also love your Paltoy TIE fighter pilot smell? Yes, I loved it. And my sister had a strawberry shortcake, and I always thought that her doll smelled like my TIE fighter pilot, and not the other way around. So you see how the smell of strawberry can become something very masculine, maybe even referring to violence. And then STINKOR. It is also still a bit fragrant, especially the shield. I sniffed it. And allegedly it smelled of, well, the mother of Hagen's friend, but also of patchouli. You have patchouli in your box. Number 5. Did any one of you grow up in the 70s? Do you remember this smell? Have you smelled it before? Yeah? Do you find it enjoyable? No. Most people don't enjoy it that much. It was highly popular in the 70s. It was worn by hippies. Yeah. So I think Hagen's mother was either a hippie or the friend of his mother's friend. Or it was just very popular in perfumery. So it either reminds you of STINKOR, a He-Man toy, very masculine, or maybe a woman, a hippie. So it's very fluid. That's the message. And this is already the end of the talk. So the conclusion is apparently the associations and the meaning attached to a certain smell are very fluid, and they stay with us for the rest of our lives. They really determine how we feel about smells and how we react to certain smells. So isn't it important to think about, instead of just adding arbitrary smells, which scents we add to our toys. And we've already seen a beautiful example of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Caro. Do I have questions? It's so much to take in. So many childhood smells. There is one question. Oh, my stick, my Corona stick. Sorry.
Yeah, so there's another sample in the box. Also, it also has your name on it.
Oh yeah, there's also fake
Called
strawberry.
Very fake strawberry.
I forgot it. Very fake strawberry. Also for the people at home. Well, of course.
Yeah. So one thing, the people at home don't have this blotter.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you
sorry.
need to explain what they smell.
Yeah. There wasn't enough room in the package for another blotter, but of course, real strawberry does not smell of fake strawberry that is often added to toys or candy. So this is an aldehyde. It's a synthetic strawberry. It wouldn't smell like this in nature.
Very plasticky, you say?
Where is the strawberry shortcake?
I think
Over there. It's still fragrant.
These aldehydes, they have such a high smell, and they already contain some plasticky smell. That's why they use them a lot to cover up the smell of plastic and they used it to give the plastic a nice smell of strawberry. Okay, more questions? No? No, it was so complete, your story. So, thank you very much, Caro.
You're welcome.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, people at home. If you want to ask questions, please do so on the live chat. We will then, I will read them to the people here on the stage, and you can participate. You can also chat to other people at home to make it a bit a nice environment altogether also at home. And so that we get jealous, and next time we all watch from home, and I will be here alone, maybe, hopefully not. So I hope you all got your drinks with this fancy system of ours. Did it work well? Did you get it right away? Our next guest is Thijs de Zeeuw. Thijs de Zeeuw is a landscape architect, and his nickname or his brand name is Nature Optimist. And what I know him from is from artists. He's an architect of one of many, maybe two, three more, 6, 5 enclosures of different animals in the Amsterdam Zoo. And so I welcome Thijs to the stage. And I asked you, Thijs, because I once saw a lecture, and I hope you will also show us some of it, with many animal toys in there, to zoo animal toys. So, I need to do this.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to be here. I'm not a smell expert. Actually, I'm an average nose. I worked as an average nose. But more and more smell becomes part of my work. Somehow I don't know exactly how it happened. I became a zoo designer. I was trained as a landscape architect, but then I somehow ended up in artists, and totally fascinated about what's going on in the zoo. Also play is a big issue in the zoo, and I'll tell you a bit about it. I'll first tell you a bit about how I design for the zoo. Actually, I don't really design for the zoo, but I design for animals, and that's also the critique I always get, that I forget the visitor, and I work too much from the animal. We did this already. Nature optimist. ZOOF. ZOOF is that stands for Zoo of, and then Zoo of the Future right now. So I'm also working on a speculative project which kind of elaborates on what the zoo could be, because zoos really tend to change slow. So what I try to do when I design for an animal, I try to make kind of a landscape of affordances. So what you see in a lot of zoos is that they try to create a kind of a decor for the animal, so that the animal fits in the image. For instance, the Asian elephant should live in an Asian savanna steppe forest. The sound, the smell. I mean, the smell. You get the smell. Also, people at home. Do I have to address you as well? You can get now the smell. Frank, the young elephant. It's not the real smell of the young elephant, but it is the very carefully reconstructed smell of the young elephant by Frank Bloem. So maybe that brings you back also a little bit to your childhood zoo memory. I don't know how good it is.
How good it? I can explain a bit about the animals. So Thijs created the enclosure for the elephant. He will tell later on everything about that. And there was an experience for people that would visit the zoo and this enclosure. And there is now 3 poles coming from the ground, in the shape of an elephant snout, made from copper, very beautifully. I did that, but I created the 3 smells together with artists and the Zoo of Amsterdam. We try to look for the chemicals that the elephants produce. Male elephants, sorry, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I need to explain this.
Take your time. It's important.
So male elephants really smell awful. Once a year they get this thing that's called must. We didn't include that in the package. But the young elephant, when he gets in must, he produces also his own animalic smell of the normal elephant smell. But also he covers up a bit his foul smell with a kind of pleasant banana-like odor, which is in fact the same molecule that bananas produce and that is used for banana sweets, and that bees use to mark a spot that they are attacked, that they are afraid of, or when they're attacked, so other bees will get there and attack or help the attacked bee. So it's a very often used chemical, and you can smell this in the zoo together with the other 2 elephant smells. So that was the smell of the elephant.
Thank you very much, Frank. Where was I? The elephant enclosure. So what I was, I think, the 3rd project I did for artists, and the first project I started out with, I cannot anthropomorphize. I should not put my emotions on the animal. I should really take this like scientifically. What are the characteristics of the habitat? And but I got rid of that idea, and especially with the elephants, who are cognitive, very very well developed, maybe even more than we are. They have a very good brain and memory. I thought I can better start with myself maybe, and how things work for me. So what I started out with is these images. The elephant has the capacity of creating a huge mental map, for instance, much better than we. So it gets now 4,000 square meters in the zoo. So how can we like trigger that mental map? So per species, I always try to find those characteristics or those talents, you could almost say, that are relevant when living in captivity in a zoo. So we didn't try to start out to recreate this Indian landscape, but we started more from the idea these are urban elephants. They were born in Artis, and what can we give those elephants in this city center? So I started out with complexity. How can we trigger that complexity? How do you create a complex landscape on a small area? So some images, especially with rock, because elephants are quite strong, so they will demolish everything that is too weak. They already destroyed some stuff in this enclosure as well. We see a little image about that later. So complexity in rocks with different textures, different colors. Colors seem kind of more fashion things, but colors, especially dark and light, they hold warmth and reflect sun differently, so you get microclimates. Different textures, very important. They can also hold food, because if you drop some food somewhere for an elephant, it will stay there the whole day. So we use those rocks to distribute their food as well. As you see, there's food in the rock. And these textures were also very important, because we also noticed that agency on their health, on their skin care, for instance, is very important with elephants. They always say they have an elephant skin and then think it's thick, but actually it's a very vulnerable part of their body. So they have to take care of it a lot. They spray sand, they get clay. That was really nice because they had never seen clay. And the first thing they did was head first into the mud, and they were like completely yellow. So you try to not design what they should do, but give them options on how to deal with their life in this little enclosure. And this, that was not planned, but they swim also very well, and they found a way by swimming around to eat the tree. So that is also a way to enlarge your little life, to have things that are actually not meant for them, but give them kind of control over that. So what happened, what you see here is that the landscape was not this like decor that we made up on beforehand, but the landscape is a kind of a result of designing from those habits and those types of behavior. And of course, this is sheer joy, I think. So that's also very recognizable. But then the toys. So what are the bottom line of this design was that the landscape should provide them with their with all the affordances that could give them a kind of a meaningful life somehow. Toy, the comfort of toy, because toys are kind of funny things. I have here a series of balls, for instance. The classical ballenbak for the stokstaartjes, the meerkat. Anybody knows for which animal? We can do a quiz, that's nice. The names are not there. Okay? Sorry? Yes, polar bear, that's good. This one. Sea lions, yes, only by the ball. Difficult one. Raccoon? No. No. The bonobo. Oh. And then, the animals there. That's a pity. These as well. Another one. So what happens? That, even after a while, when I came to Artis, I saw two bulls in the elephant enclosure. So there's this urge to give animals toys in the zoo, and it's really I find it really annoying. But it works as well. So they play with it, of course. Sometimes they play with it. Some animals more than other ones. This one is not really interested, although it's quite scratched. Oh wait, I have also toys with me. Oh yeah, cool. But that's not really balls actually. It's more food-oriented toys. So they play with it, and I would like your opinion later on them as well. So what is this urge to put those balls in there? And I think that's quite interesting because those toys are there for the animals, of course. That's why we put them there. But I think there's more to it because everybody, even the people who like the zoo, they find it a little bit sad for the animals that they are locked up, of course. And so we have this feeling of guilt with the zoo. We feel a bit pity and sad for the animals. So if we see an animal play, that's this kind of soothing thing to watch. If the animal is playing, then it might be happy, because it's sometimes really hard to tell whether an animal is happy or not. So if an animal plays, it is happy. So my idea is that we do those balls more for ourselves than actually for the animals to play. So that's for whom do we put those toys there? And then it becomes almost a kind of a means of communicating with the animal. So what you see here is these people really put a lot of effort into creating these animals and these toys for these animals. So people are really investing and really happy, and they think, I think that they really add something to the lives of those animals. And at the same time, these animals are kind of rendered into sad products somehow. So it is also kind of taking all their dignity away by putting a giraffe like this, or you saw this one before. So do we take the lion serious as a predator, or as an animal, or as a person, by creating these cardboard things? And I think these people in the beginning, they're really sincere. They really try to be part of the life of the lion. Or this one is quite interesting because since they took off the head of the giraffe, it becomes a kind of abstract giraffe, which is quite nice. I think they should just do the square ones. And this one's interesting because you saw this one before. Before it was in the rhino enclosure, but I think the rhino was not getting a lot of response, so they put it in the lion enclosure, where it got much more useful for a while. Yeah, this is a little movie to top it off. So these animals, they become kind of performers in their own movie. The African wild dog. You see, he's really trying his best to perform the African wild dog. He recognizes the zebra from this kind of long gone Prussian memory. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding for whom we do it and what it means. But now a little bit more on smell, because I haven't talked about smell at all yet. And I don't know much about smell, but I do encounter more and more that smell is quite an important part, actually. It should be an important part of my work, I think. So also here, you might be smell experts. So I'd like your opinions as well later on, maybe with drink. I'm now working on a lion enclosure. And flaming is quite a normal type of behavior. They smell these pheromones, and horses also do it. You see all their teeth. It looks a bit like they're smiling or they're angry, but they're basically smelling the other's pheromones. So smell is quite important with all those, and flaming is important with a lot of mammal species. So I went behind the scenes in Artis and what kind of toys do they have? I wanted to bring a car tire because a car tire is a quite well used toy in zoos. They actually used products a lot in zoos with old jerry cans, tires, fire hoses. Fire hoses are really strong, so they can't rip them apart. The ball, which is here, the same ball. It's an Aussie ball, 250 euros. Can order it. But there's also kind of interesting behavior with smell in mammals. This is an example of self-anointing. There are various theories why animals they do it. They're not completely sure, but this could also be a way of incorporating smell in a more landscapish or in inclusive way in design. Oh wait, that's I have to press that. It's really nice to watch actually when an animal is self-anointing. I don't really know why there are some theories like predators don't want to smell like a predator, or prey doesn't want to smell like prey, but actually a panda is neither of them. So I don't exactly. Maybe the panda is one of those animals that uses smell and self-anointing just because he likes it. That's possible. We of course use also smell because we like it. And now for the elephant, lion enclosure, we also used elephant dung, and what you see is that the lions also roll into that. So these are kind of means that are kind of a landscapish way to incorporate smell in zoo design. Here you have the elephant dung, but actually this was like the star of the keepers. He got it for Christmas, and he didn't like it at all. But it is really the favorite of the lions. So also my question to you is what you prefer? Would you prefer the elephant dung or the Anais? And that's the end of the talk.
Still smelling the anais, and the people at home too, enjoying it. What happens when the lions they love this smell?
Yeah, the lions really love it. They spray it on branches or on dead trees, and they really like the panda. They completely curl up in it, and they are self-anointing them with the smell.
With the smell.
Yeah.
And so the panda was anointing itself with what kind of smell?
That was the hay. We had the hay before, so the hay is indeed maybe it was they didn't have enough hay in their childhood, so they were kind of making up for missed out hay in their youth. That could be.
And they sprayed it. You told me also that they spray this on Christmas trees.
Yeah.
For the lions, and they throw the old Christmas trees that they find in the streets in January.
Yeah.
They spray anais on it.
Yeah. So it's it's a blend. So maybe it's also a bit of the Christmas tree, but
so imagine this together with the Christmas tree, and that's what the lions like best to roll.
That's their all-time favorite so far. So The thing is that what I'm now running into is that you're designing in a landscape, and you can design with plants that smell, of course. But how do you visualize their behavior related to smell? So that is kind of difficult to also communicate with the people. What do they see? Why are the lions rolling like that, or why are they avoiding certain places that stink to their opinion? So the visualization of smell through the captive lion is
Well,
kind
we'll
of
see that when the enclosure will open.
Yes.
Maybe. What's they use smell a lot themselves? You say they spray.
Yeah.
And what does that smell like? Their own secretion.
Yeah, their urine is very ammoniacish.
Yeah. You get
It's
that?
very, very ammoniacish. You should not use painted steel, for instance, because they kind of instantly piss it off. That's
The
really
paint?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, it's really, really terrible stuff. And if you're behind the scenes, you have to be really careful because they can direct it quite well. So they also piss you in the face if they get the chance.
And do they reach people that are watching on the terrace,
No, but rhinos can. I know that a rhino in Rotterdam pissed someone over about 4.5 meters.
Oh, crazy!
But
those things always happen in Rotterdam.
Yes.
Also with Bakito, they have a different approach to things, much more connection with the animals in Rotterdam. You're building. Are you going to include those things in your new lion enclosure? Some more interaction with humans and lions? Might. And with other animals, because, well, maybe you can tell about the reiger.
Well, yeah. Well, of course, the main problem with predators, keeping predators, is that they, if you keep them in a zoo, they should behave humane. So you're a lion, but you're not allowed to hunt. So you have to behave like a human. So that's a big problem because besides hunting, lions do nothing but sleeping and lying. So the thing is that if you create an environment for lions where there might be something to hunt without putting live animals in there, for instance, if you put fish in there, then you also get herons. And herons are quite stupid because they get really like focused on the fish. So then once in a while they can catch a heron. So designing for lions is also designing for herons in that sense, you could say.
Do we have questions at home?
At home.
So
where's home?
Yeah, there. Home is there.
Do you have questions?
Hi there. Please ask something because we expect you to be part of this evening too, and don't sit and only watch. It's not television, it's live streaming. So we just wait until we get a question from you. And we have time.
We have plenty of time.
Do we already have a question? Oh, there is a 10-second delay. Oh, so you're... So we have to wait 10 seconds more. It's long, 10 seconds.
Yeah. When you're on this side of the...
Really, do we have a 10-second delay? So if something horrible happens at this moment, we can cut it out. Oh, that's good to know. We should have done that before. Okay. Now, well, no questions. Do we have questions in the hall? There is a question.
Yeah.
One moment. I come close.
Do zoos also use smells in their marketing strategy or in the design of the zoo in itself? That they have a sort of idea of to enhance the experience?
That's a good one. I don't know of it myself. So I mainly work for artists, and I don't know about any cases in artists that they use it. But of course, it already sells itself. So if you go to the elephant stables, I'm in the elephant stables. You don't even have to look. You already smell it. So it does play a big role, and I think it's also very maybe confusing even for the animals, because it is of course a very weird collection of animals with all their own smells, and they are packed like closely to each other. So for the animals it must be also kind of a weird experience. But for visitors, explicitly use smell, like the croissantjes van de Albert Heijn in the station hall. No, I don't think so.
We have a question from the people that are watching.
From an interweb.
Through the internet. You see here our internet connection, and they're going to ask the question.
I have several questions, but the first one is, what is in Anais that makes lions that crazy? And do tigers like it too, or just lions?
Two questions I both don't know the answer to. But that doesn't say it's not a good question. It's just a bad answer.
Maybe I know a bit. Can I guess?
Yes.
Well, there are some animalic notes in perfume. One of them is indole. It's kind of a shit-like, manure-like smell. And that is also in some white flowers. And in anise, you can sense, when you unpack, you can sense a tiny bit of this indolic bad smell, and that is covered up by the smell of roses. So maybe the sense of this indolic poop-like smell makes them happy. Maybe it's a guess. I don't know, but
maybe their prey smells a bit like roses as well, somehow.
What is their prey?
Antelope.
Yeah. Antelope. They smell maybe like roses.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you know. Do they have antelopes in Artus?
Yes, we should do.
We have to smell them. Yeah.
So we will take
question?
that seriously. Yep.
More questions.
So one person asked, the San Diego Zoo has a lot of glass enclosures, and once I saw a man playing a movie on an iPad to a gorilla. It was strange. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, that's, well, I was just talking also with somebody else about that. I don't think it's a bad idea, necessarily. And what is interesting, there's a researcher, and of course animals are kept in zoos, but well, there's a technical story to it, but for Europe, all Europe zoos, they work together because all the animals in the zoos of Europe, they are like one population, you could say, one genetic gene pool, and there's no wild gorillas or other animals coming into that gene pool. So that gene pool, they have to keep it fit and healthy. So they try to combine the right individuals to keep those genes like from breeding in. But that means that you have to transport animals over zoos, and that's quite costly and it's quite a lot of work. So the more sure you are that those two animals that you're going to combine are doing well together, saves a lot of energy and trouble. So what this woman was proposing is Tinder for gorillas, and actually the first test, they seem to work. So gorillas also pick their partners not just olfactory but also visually. So they have their preferences. So it was really clear that if they swipe through a bunch of female gorillas, then this silverback was, hey, well, this is interesting. So I think it could, for the zoo population, it could do good. The one thing is, of course, how much do you want to involve these animals with human objects? That's another question.
And that's a good final open question for your talk, maybe. Yeah. Thank you very much, Thijs de Zeeuw. Please, how do you call that? Sanitize? No, wait it ook weer. Sanitize. Please sanitize our microphone. And people can follow you online through your website.
But that's on urban animals.
So you have you have one website that is the nature.
Yeah, I have one website that's just about my work, but it's a bit old. I have also a very nice...
No, say what's the website?
Yeah, that's thijsdezeeuw.nl. But then there's also a very nice website which is called thezooofthefuture.com. And that's about the zoo of the future. And then there's also Instagram with Amsterdammer animals. So all the animals and little critters that we live with in the city.
So start all following Thijs de Zeeuw. Thank you very much. You can hand over the mic to Jonathan. It's a very small step from zoo animals to man, male species, men or only the human males. Mainly, that's why I asked Jonathan to be here. So this is your last slide, Thijs. So Jonathan Ho, a visual artist and designer, and I think it's best maybe for you to tell us everything about your line of work, and well, then afterwards we also come to some questions. Jonathan Ho, people.
Can people hear me? Yeah, is it good? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, perfect. Cool. So I'm a artist and designer, and the main kind of interest or focus that I'm really interested in is kind of the role of design and how that can really affect our sexuality in day-to-day life. So, yeah, a bit closer. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So kind of, if we all kind of think a little bit about the big umbrella term that is sex, you know, there are kind of these two terms that come to mind, I think, for most people: reproduction and pleasure. And sometimes the two kind of overlap, but then you kind of normally call those happy accidents. And never have I really heard of anyone getting turned on by the idea of getting pregnant. Yeah? No? Better? Yeah? Yeah, cool. So I've never heard of anyone getting turned on by the idea of getting pregnant. So I don't, you know, there is this kind of line between reproduction and pleasure. But I would like to then maybe propose, you know, a kind of third way of experiencing sexuality, which would be this idea of play. You know, which for me, play is this thing that really does extend beyond pleasure. You can get pleasure out of play, but play is really this thing that extends beyond the physical senses. So, you know, something that goes beyond smell, touch, hearing, sight, you know, but really goes into kind of the imaginary realm of how you experience and kind of live out your sexuality. So let's talk about puppy play as an example. You know, so who here is not aware of what puppy play is? Yeah, so in a quick sort of nutshell, puppy play is basically a subculture within the fetish scene where people dress up as puppies and play. You know, and the idea is that you kind of embody a kind of puppy character or role within your identity or your fetish persona, and then you kind of use that to kind of do things that you normally wouldn't do. And this was what my first impression of puppy play first, when I first came across it, and that was very much related around BDSM aesthetics. So the idea that, you know, you were a puppy and you were locked up in a cage and being treated like a dog. And there was this whole kind of range of objects and designed objects that came around with it. So for example, you had collars, you know, but with collars also came this whole process of this ritual of being collared, where you kind of are granted a collar by your owner, basically. Who can guess what that is for? Yeah, tail, exactly. And then you even have these mittens, you know, which or gloves that allow you to kind of walk on as a dog for the whole night in the club on your forelegs. And it was funny because a few years ago I was at a fetish fair in Berlin, at a fetish shop in Berlin, and I was talking to one of the staff there, and he was talking about how, you know, with puppy play, you know, it was really about, you know, this almost degradation of human nature, that you get treated like a dog basically, and you kind of succumb to this, yeah, almost animalistic, primitive way of dealing or being dealt with in terms of your sexuality. You know, and he was saying, you know, that nowadays, you know, the scene is filled with all these young faggots, you know, who are just prancing around. And it was funny because a few weeks after that conversation, I was at a fetish fair and I saw puppies there, you know. And what was interesting about the puppy scene that I saw was that it was mostly young guys between the ages of 18 to early 30s. And they were really using puppy play as a way to kind of be intimate and connect with one another. So there was no sexuality involved whatsoever. It was really all about just playing in a ball pit and having fun with one another. And using this idea of being a puppy as a way to connect with another human being. And I think we can all kind of agree that after this corona period that we've all started to kind of realize the importance of intimacy and touch with one another, you know, as human beings. And what I found really exciting or really revolutionary about this idea of puppy play is that you have something that is such a basic idea or concept, and it can stretch to such extremes in terms of how it's explored in your day-to-day sexuality. So this was a project that I did with a friend, Alexander Jakuc, and this was just after graduating. And we were asked to design an installation for a furniture fair, IMM Cologne in Germany. And the whole idea was, it was based off Odor Ludens, funnily enough, by Johann Hausinger, exactly, yeah. and which was this, this idea that play is this thing that exists not only as a child, but it's this way of being that exists from childhood to adulthood, and it's this ongoing kind of mental state that you need to constantly develop and explore. So we thought, we saw the exhibition list of all the other artists and designers showcasing work, and you had rocking chairs and things that you could cuddle in, and it was this basically, furniture that you could play in. And me and my friend thought, let's fuck that, let's do something a bit more fun and edgy, and also because there was no budget at all to make something new. So we decided to basically take children's toys and repurpose them into a fetish interior, basically, or kink space. So you can see there, these are all these the mats that you have in kindergartens, that we decided to put down. The gates there are pens that you use to prevent babies from falling down the stairs. That's like a toy gun we just spray painted black and just hung in the background for effect. And a sort of cooking apron, that you have, and we painted it black as well, basically. We dipped Barbies in latex, and dyed their hair and kind of threw them around the space. And then this is a puppy mask that I made from an old stroller that I found on the street. And we even had a little toy dog, and you can't see it, and this is the picture, but in real life it was actually on battery and was just going around barking away, I thought that was really funny. So, and that was children's toys, but another kind of way also in terms of this idea of play and how do you kind of recontextualize play in your everyday to-day life, was this series that I did, as part of my graduation work when I graduated in 2017. And the whole idea was a series of furniture equipment, furniture pieces that you could have sex on based on well-known gym positions. And it was funny because I really do kind of think this was really kind of the start of how I got into the fetish and sexuality scene or industry. And it was that, it was after graduation, and all my friends' works graduation work got snapped up by galleries, and nobody wanted my work. But there was this fetish fair happening in Belgium in a few months, and I thought, okay, I'm going to approach them and see if they would be interested in showcasing my work. And they did, and they ended up buying the whole collection. So that was the first point, But the second point was that, what happens when you then suddenly place a series of furniture pieces, that kind of resemble gym and bring up memories of the gym within a context which smells like poppers, which is what you're smelling now, basically.
Don't inhale. Inhale gently. So it's only the smell of poppers. Well, it should be only the smell of poppers.
Yeah, and what was funny was how I had created all these objects of furniture pieces, based off gym positions and placed them down in the space. But I think what was really exciting was how people started using the furniture pieces in totally different ways. So for example, with this piece, it was. I think there was a couple who was kind of doing this really weird position on it, having sex, and I was just looking at them. And then they said, come over. And I came over and they said, yeah, we see that you've been checking us out. And I said, no, I've been actually looking at the furniture. Or for example, there was this piece here, which is really based around what's that, ab exercises where you grip on. But it turned out to be a flogging bench. So there was a couple, who was there, and one guy was the other way around. And the handles, which you grip on, he used to actually hang his whips. And I thought, oh, that's really fantastic, that all of a sudden you create this thing, this baby, and all of a sudden it takes a life of play on its own. So, we went through children's toys and we went through gym equipment. But what about the kind of everyday, object or household piece of furniture or furnishing, How do you kind of recontextualize that into something sexual or fun? So this was a project that I was asked by the Nieuw en Meer Kunst en Bedrijven, if any of you know that. It's an artist community by the Nieuw en Meer, and they were hosting and organizing a festival where they wanted to kind of showcase to the rest of Amsterdam, why they were valuable within the artist community in Amsterdam. Because I think at the time the gemeente were kind of breaking down a lot of these squatting communities, and they were trying to do a bit of a political thing on how to kind of to be seen, basically. And there was the Park Oberlande, do people here know the Park Oberlande? Anybody? So it's one of the only legal cruising areas in Amsterdam where you're allowed to go and have sex in nature, basically. There's a sign and it's busy all year round. It's this fabulous place where people go and have sex. And none of the artists really wanted to deal with it, basically, because they said, yeah, sex, no. But I thought, cool, let's do it. Again, super low budget, but I thought, how can we then and the idea was to kind of create a series of artistic interventions within this space, in nature, that smelled of cow shit, because there are cows there also. You know, so I thought, you know, how could we kind of bring, well, how funny would it be to kind of bring this idea of the interior into such a free space, you know, and kind of blur both boundaries. So we basically went to the Kringloopwinkel, the second-hand shop, and bought a shitload of interior things, and decided to kind of create and deck the whole forest out. So we got kind of hammocks from IKEA, you know, that we hung throughout the space. These were really popular. We got these really basic kind of Frutig mirrors that we hung throughout the space as well, so people kind of see themselves while having sex. But we also got all yoga mats and all kinds of outdoor furniture cushions and basically wrapped them around branches, because that's where people were having sex on anyways. And we thought, let's just make it a bit more comfortable, you know? I mean, these are actually even the locals who dress up like this regularly, you know, and we got them to kind of just have fun going on with it, you know? But what my favorite one actually was that we got Luraflex, which is this really old 80s kind of 70s, I think, window thing, you know, and because in this Park Overlander, sex is for everyone to see. And I thought, you know, how funny would it be to kind of actually add this sense of privacy within the space, you know? And it's funny because so on the Thursday that we hung these up, you know, we hung these up on Thursday, and I came back on a Friday afternoon to go and check on how they were going, and one of the pieces was broken and put at the entrance. And I thought, shit, you know, nobody likes it. So I went around asking, you know, do you know what happened to this? Do you know what happened? What happened? And apparently someone was using it and had broken it accidentally while getting their dick sucked through. And I thought, yes, you know, it's amazing, you know, that, you know, you suddenly take something like this and put it out of context, you know, within this cruising area, and how people start playing with it, basically. And I thought it was really fun. But then, so one of the things that really does excite me in terms of design, you know, and within this world of sexuality and fetish culture, is when you can actually have a material that is so broad and accessible, but, you know, so many people can interpret and play with in many different ways. So I'm going to talk a little bit about latex. Yeah. So when you mention latex within the context of sexuality, most people usually assume condoms or sexy latex suits. You know, but I think, you know, there's a little bit more, I think, or that needs explaining in terms of why latex is such a popular and well received material, actually, in general, within the fetish community. So a little bit of fun fact about latex, it's from the rubber tree, if any of you don't know, and it's actually produced from the sap of the rubber tree, which is actually a self-defense mechanism produced by the tree to prevent insects from chewing and eating the latex up. But also, the kind of start of latex fetish wear or latex clothing really starts with Charles McIntosh. If any of you know the rain jacket brand Macintosh coats, and it started by Charles McIntosh, who's actually a chemist who kind of developed the first patented rubber raincoat. And what happened was there was a real popularity amongst British housewives, you know, during the period, you know, of wearing latex raincoats. And at the time, it was not really sexual, but there was certainly a fetish or a sense of appreciation for the feeling of wearing a rubber raincoat. And this all really changed in 1957 with the start of Atom Age, which was a magazine catered to people who loved wearing latex. And basically how he started or got really popular or exploded this fetish scene of latex was getting customers to photograph themselves in their favorite latex gear, you know, and kind of send them in. And he basically sent this catalog out to all people who were interested in latex wear. And it started off very kind of, I think, innocent. It was really about dressing up and feeling at one with latex. And eventually it got a little bit more kinky and fun, you know, and a bit more into the S&M, BDSM kind of world. But one other thing that most people don't really realize about latex, beyond the visual aspect of it, is the sense of tactility that comes with it. So when you are wearing a piece of latex clothing, a piece of fitted latex clothing, you start to sweat. And when you sweat, what happens is it creates sort of a thin layer of liquid or fluid between yourself and the latex. And what that means is, or what that does, it suddenly feels like you're swimming in a layer or a second layer of skin, a second skin almost. And a lot of people are very addicted to this kind of compression feeling on the body, while also this kind of floating sensation. And I have read, you know, that this feeling actually goes beyond childhood, but actually goes back to this feeling of being embalmed as an embryo. So when you're being under this compression, you know, in the womb, they say that this feeling that latex gives actually comes, this need for latex, this feeling that you get from wearing latex clothing comes from here. Hence why a lot of this latex vacuum beds are actually very popular, you know, and usually it doesn't have anything to do with sex. Most of the time it's you getting suctioned into it and getting a massage, basically, you know. Yes. And the one thing that I find really exciting about latex is with such a simple material, you can have such different extremes or different ways of playing and experiencing with it. you know, from this kind of very gay BDSM kind of way of experiencing it, to sort of now you see a lot of latex couture houses who really celebrate the aesthetics and visual exploration of latex fetish wear. You know, and what I love about this material from a design perspective is the fact that, you know, there's a visual aspect that comes along with it, a tactile aspect that comes along with it, but also you have that latex smell, you know, that it's funny because I always question, you know, which came first, you know, the latex smell fetish or the experience that came with the latex fetish smell, you know. So one project that I did recently was with a scientist, an evolutionary scientist from VU Amsterdam, that's us, Dr. Joris Koen, and he specializes in the sexual hermaphroditic reproduction of snails. And the whole idea with this project that we did together was to try and question what it would mean to experience or live in what would it mean to experience a gender fluid sexuality. So because snails are hermaphrodites, we decided to kind of try and explore or visualize what it would mean to experience sexuality from this perspective of a snail. So like puppies, like puppy play, what about snail play? What would that kind of look like, basically? So basically, you know, that's the funny thing about gender also, you know, kind of going back to what Caro said, you know, that in the end, our perceptions of what is masculine or feminine is entirely a construct, you know, based on our own personal experiences. You know, in the end, we'll never really be able to agree with someone, you know, what is exactly masculine or what is exactly feminine in a way. But the one thing that I did find very interesting about latex is that we can all agree on what the smell of latex is. You know, and for me, you know, so the idea was to basically design a series of latex suits, you know, or fetish wear based off snail biology, and kind of begin with that as a starting point for how people interact with one another. So I worked together with two dancers, Christian Guermachi and Karen Rosenberg, and we basically got them to experiment with forms of gender, you know, and interact with one another and see how they would move and kind of experience the eroticism of snail play, basically. And it's funny because in the beginning, they both, you know, had very different experiences with the material, but the one thing that kind of they could agree on was the smell of latex, and the one thing that now when they do finish or when they think about latex is they think of snail play. And that's, I think, the power of design and smell, and this is where I will then leave you with this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. To me, it's so nice that you managed to make something that is maybe in the first place gross and something worrying, very beautiful, and interesting and funny as well. I think there are a lot of questions. We start with some questions from online. Are there questions? Not yet. And we are running out of time with the live stream, I think. We can continue. Okay, great. So we start with some questions from you. I can't imagine that there's no questions, although maybe some might be a bit puzzled of all this new information. Who has a question? Yeah.
I don't know anything about latex. It's very good to start over. Yes. Does latex always have the same smell because it's a natural resource, or does it differ?
Yeah, well, it's funny, me and Frank were just talking about it. So most people have kind of an idea of what latex smells like, you know, but there's very
condoms,
exactly, gloves,
like
you know,
to do the dishes with.
Exactly, yeah, but also there are very different grades of latex. So the condoms and gloves that you smell are quite cheap latex, and the latex, for example, that was passed around, those are latex trimmings used for latex fetish wear, basically. So I'm not sure. Maybe if you go home and you compare it, it's similar, but there is a certain extra. I think, you know, you smell it's a different quality, you know, but there is that still underlying latex smell. You know, and I think what's really interesting is how that can be a starting point for sexuality rather than an end point, you know, within this idea of designing around sex.
Yeah, are you the only one that designs around sex, like on an art level?
Yeah, you know, look, there's a small scene of us designers in the Netherlands, you know, who design around sex, and everyone has kind of their own niche or focus. You know, like for example, there's Nienke Helder in Eindhoven, she focuses on sexual healing. You know, you've got a lot that really who have their own take on it, basically. You know, there's a fashion designer, Nina Muna. It's really BDSM-y, you know, and it's more of a fashion angle. I'm really just more kind of interested in the human condition, you know, and what is it through sex we can kind of understand a little bit more about ourselves, I think.
Yeah, who here in the audience got a new perspective on latex and on sex in the what's the place where to go? The Oeverlanden.
Yeah.
You may have different ideas about that place. It seems to be kind of a nice.
Well, since Corona period, it became the hot, cool area. All the cool hipsters are there partying and dancing because you have your 1.5 meter distance, but you can still have sex there also.
But how can you?
Yeah, you can watch also.
Oh
yeah. Of course,
that's a good idea.
Exactly,
you can always watch.
So a lot of people having picnics, watching people have sex. It's
really?
Totally.
So
it's bit too late.
But the people that are having sex, they need to be in the same bubble then.
No, you just walk around and enjoy.
But for Corona-wise,
yeah.
So
we all follow our Corona rules here.
There is a thin line. Questions, Juan?
Did I understand it rightly that you also designed the dark room? Is that correct?
Yeah, of Club Church, yes.
So if the answer is going to be very obvious, and I would be very happy if you're not going to go down that road, but how do you know if your design for that dark room is a success? And then how do you proceed from that if you would continue doing that?
Well, I think one of my favorite things to do is to be a fly on the wall. And I think on the opening night when they released it, the darkroom was packed. It was absolutely chaos, and it smelled like poppers and shit and cum and piss, and I thought, now that's when you know it's a success. But I do think in terms of how you go on with designing a darkroom, then it's really about observing, it's really about observing and seeing how people interact with the space, also getting feedback from the customers, I think. Always the discussion that you have is people say that it's too dark. But the thing about that being a space that's too dark is that you start smelling more better, So that's also the other thing I think with these kinds of spaces. And also, if you stay in the darkroom long enough, your eyes tend to adjust, So eventually you start seeing things. And I had a discussion with the owner about it, and there was this big discussion about how dark should a darkroom actually be, And in the end, he said, in the end, it's a darkroom, You go there, it should just be dark enough that you're able to see a silhouette and project all your fantasies on the figure coming up towards you, but it should be dark enough that you're always wrong.
So it's a very romantic.
It's very romantic. It's very romantic, actually. It's very romantic and very sensory also. It goes beyond the visual senses also.
Yeah.
Because you go into this dark space and immediately, people are groping you and you're groping people and people are sucking and touching and you're smelling. It's a very different way of experiencing your sexuality beyond just seeing someone and jumping onto them. Or the kind of sex that most people would have at the club into 3 different categories. The first being, more one-on-one or one-on-two play, which is really when you see someone you like and then you need a private space to have sex with. And that we did that with a cabin area. There was like a corridor area, which was more about cruising, so passing by and kind of chance encounter. And then the dark room, which is really anonymous sex with anonymous people. And I think, it was how do you then kind of link all these spaces together where it feels fluid, that you can kind of switch between one space to the other easily without having to say, okay, I'm going to hook up with that person now and go here and have to do that. I think that was the trickiest thing, And hygiene.
So hygiene. How did you manage that?
We used surgical equipment, for a lot of the furniture pieces, because poppers and semen is a very aggressive material on furniture, most darkroom furniture.
It's a bit like the lions that when you pee on it, you can throw it away.
Yeah.
But you used special materials.
Yeah, but they use it during in surgery.
Yeah,
exactly.
Those are the best.
Those are the best, exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't it get a surgical appearance then?
No, but it's all in the dark also.
Oh yeah, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
We have a picture, I think.
Yeah.
The last one. Oh, this is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is also our last picture of but we don't have to ignore the letters. Just look at the picture. This is Club Church. We see a cross. It is a reference to the fact that the building was a church.
No, it was not a church. The whole idea was that it was just on Kerkstraat. It's on Kerkstraat, exactly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, it was not an old church. A lot of people romanticize with that. But
I romanticize. It was just a building, and they.
Well, the whole concept also was also how do you then kind of turn a sex club into a modern day church, basically? You know, how do you kind of create a space that brings together all these different communities or people together where they can kind of express their sexuality in a non-judgmental, open way? I think that was the idea.
Great. So, we're good, I think. Thank you very much for this very interesting and experience into a world we not often visit. So I place my Freddie Mercury stick down. One last thing to tell you is our next Odorama. On the 16th of September, we will be having an Odorama about, it's called Law and Odor. It's about a lot about smell, bad smells, city planning through smells, and people that are angry at each other because they produce smells that their neighbors don't like, stuff like that. That will be on the 16th of December. And for now, let's have a...
Maybe the whole production team can stand up because they did so much work.
Yes, of course, Mediamatic, the production team, the internet team. Thank you very much, Mediamatic, for getting this all together. It was really a good evening, I think. So see you in the bar. And people at home, till the next time.